Start recording. Yeah. Okay, man. We're going live. Hey, everybody. Here live with Jake Reynolds from Depth Security. Known Jake for several years now. Done some work with him and his firm, and they have a really cool company that does a lot of amazing things in the cybersecurity world. And so we're going to ask some questions to Jake today and learn a little more about him and his company. And so it's great to have you. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Peyton.
Yeah. So you work for a company called Depth Security. You found it with a couple other guys.
Yeah.
What, 15 years ago now?
Yeah, in '06.
Nice, very good. And what do you guys do?
Yeah, so we're pretty focused. I guess you could call us a cybersecurity offensive consultancy. Offensive being, the kind of come and get you and show what's possible in cybersecurity, pen testing, web application security, red teaming. Defensive are the guys that are trying to stop us. So we kind of focus on the, offensive side, trying to prove what's possible, to show the risk, to provide a report to reduce that risk.
Sure. When you meet somebody and they've no idea what cyber is, and you're trying to explain to them what the heck you do,
yeah.
How do you tell them?
I hate the term. But to tell a layperson about what we do, I usually use ethical hacking or something like that. It's a fairly old term, but it portrays it pretty well. It's essentially, my team are all what you could consider hackers. They're experts in exploiting network and application flaws and gaining access and kind of doing the worst you could with it.
Sure.
So yeah, at the end of the day, instead of being bad guys, we produce a report. We don't exploit anything for our own gain, obviously, in an effort to try to button up that risk before someone less scrupulous than us comes along and actually ransomwares the client or does something negative to impact their business.
So you show a company how to hack their applications before they actually get hacked by external hackers.
Right.
Great.
Right.
And how did you get your start in this industry?
By way of general IT work, when I started in IT, I was more of a network engineer. So I went through the whole Cisco suite of certifications as a young man, and all the way up to what's called the CCIE, which was at the time Cisco's expert level cert, and a company that was also a pen testing company and security VAR called Fishnet needed to fulfill their Cisco partnership, and the requirement was to have one CCIE on staff. So I signed up for work as kind of a firewall, wireless, firewall upgrade, network engineering, network security guy. Long story short, they had a team of pen testers, and they gave me, I remember, a medical college, and they were like, hey, we're out of testers. Do you want to take this project on? And I was all about it, So I remember getting my first SQL injection, breaking into some nursing statistics web application, feeling pretty good about myself, and that was in '05.
Wow.
So.
Okay. And how did you go from that, just like dabbling into the penetration space, to starting Depth?
Yeah, good question. So, in '05, it was a lot easier to get your break in cyber, especially offensive. There were no real worthwhile certifications to speak of, no way of vetting people. The only ways we really knew of vetting folks are they, their CVEs to their name? Are they writing, code? Are they writing blog articles? Are they publishing their work at well-known conferences, things like that? Obviously, the majority of decent security practitioners may be doing only one of those, and maybe they're not speaking at Black Hat, so it's kind of hard to prove it. But long story short, I worked at Fishnet for a few years doing penetration testing, and one of the folks that I met there, Gene Abramov, who's my current partner, he kind of passed the torch to me in that department. He left to go play in a band in Boston, go have a fun time on the East Coast for a couple years. So I kind of took over for him, did that work, was a principal consultant at Fishnet. Fishnet ended up going on to become Optiv with another VAR, if you've heard of Optiv. They're a pretty large company. So long story short, when Gene got back, he put together Depth Security. We were talking, and I was like, well, that sounds like a great opportunity. And kind of that's how we went from doing this for somebody to doing this for ourselves.
And what year was that?
'06.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was your kind of what was an example of a project you might have done, or how did you go about? I guess the better question is, how did you go about getting clients and getting them to believe? Because I'm sure in '06, not a lot of people knew even what penetration testing was or ethical
Right.
hacking.
Right.
How did you get in front of clients?
Yeah, so, just like a lot of entrepreneurs, you have a great idea, you start a business, and it turns out that maybe what you had as an idea isn't what people want to buy.
Mm-hmm.
So what do? You pivot a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in our case, one of the first things I would recommend to any entrepreneur, especially like B2B stuff,
Mm-hmm.
where this is possible, is if you're going to jump off, get a first client before you quit your day job.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, what are you doing, right? If it's possible. I mean, there are some the nature of some businesses that you can't do that. So Gene already had worked a relationship out with a company on the East Coast, and they didn't really have any pen testing needs, but they had a lot of network integration needs. They were building a new facility, doing the move. You can imagine just lots of general IT work there.
Sure.
So my two partners kind of fit in there and used that for sustenance, even though that wasn't the game plan.
Mm-hmm.
Did that kind of work. And that allowed me to focus on growing the pen test book of business, which is, starting from zero. You've got to write your methodology, your report templates. You got to sell. The sales cycle's long.
Mm-hmm.
You can sometimes talk to someone for 6 months before they, eventually do the work with you. So,
Sure.
we did just kind of network engineering, network integration stuff to kind of sustain ourselves.
Wow, that's great. What? So you guys were. What year did you guys start Depth?
'06.
'06.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the math on that? You guys are 15, 16, 17 years old now?
Yeah, 17.
17 years old.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen the industry change
Yeah.
dramatically almost in 2 decades. It's almost been. What sets you guys apart from other firms out there? Because there's not a lot of penetration testing firms.
Yeah. No, that's true.
I don't think there is anyway, but.
So one of the things I'm pretty proud of at Depth is that we've always been like what I'd call engineering forward.
Mm-hmm.
All the competitors we know of, all the folks we've seen be successful in this field, kind of start with sales, and it makes sense. You have to sell something before you need a consultant or someone to deliver it, right? And they go that direction. We kind of put sales in the back seat, which I think hampers growth, right? Especially if you're doing it organically, but. We always worried about doing a really good job.
Mm-hmm.
And in our industry, kind of the big secret, or maybe not so secret, is you have a lot of demand and a short supply. What's that create? Well, that creates a bubble.
Mm.
So you have plenty of people willing to sell pen tests, a few less people than that capable of delivering it properly.
Mm.
So what you end up with is kind of a bunch of junk. You have kind of a crapshoot if you're going to pick a pen test provider. Even at a pen test provider, it's a crapshoot between the consultants they have. It's a variety of skill levels, expertise areas, and things like that. So our goal was to always do what we said, do actual pen testing, not just start a vulnerability scanner, walk away, crap a report out that's meaningless, send it to the customer, waste their time. So we want to show customers what's possible. And by that, I mean the things that everyone's told them is possible, but you kind of roll your eyes when your network's never been hacked before. You've never seen this. You've gone 10 years. No one's gotten into your CFO's inbox, shown you a picture of it. So we aim to go find those flaws, create the most kind of dramatic intrusion we can, sometimes combining things to make a more serious issue out of them, and then portray that risk so they actually know. Yeah, these things are worth going out and tackling and fixing.
Sure.
We don't want a bad day. We don't want to be in the news, et cetera.
Yeah.
So.
And most people on the business side of companies, they don't really understand how vulnerable they are until you guys actually show them, hey, I'm inside.
Yeah.
And then they go, wow, okay, we need to partner up with you guys.
Yeah. No, it was kind of funny because we thought that we'd have these, we'd be able to prove we got what's called domain admin in a network, right? And that's basically saying we've got, God level permissions on most networks. And that if we told a CIO, hey, we've got domain admin, the highest permissions in your network internally, we're sitting there behind your firewalls with a presence, can do what we want, that we'd get this crazy reaction of the whole house is on fire, let's go fix this. Well, we tried that a couple of times and it just, we're surprised that we didn't get the reaction we thought, so we took it a step further. We started dumping all the user hashes out of Active Directory with permission, of course. This was all within the rules of engagement that we'd set.
What are those?
Well, that's basically like in your corporate directory, your password that you log in your computer with is kept in a obfuscated or hashed form. Every single person, if you work for a 10,000 person company, every person's password's in a central directory. With domain admin, you can just what's called hash dump or DC sync and pull those all down. You can, in some contexts, play those hashes as if they're clear text passwords, so you don't need to crack them to access other services on the network, or you can take them offline to a bank of GPUs, a password cracker, and within, a typical corporate network, with 10,000 users, you could crack, 50% of them within an hour, maybe 75% of them in a day. We started doing things like that. We started, clearing it first, obviously, making sure the rules of engagement were established, but then logging into a CFO, his inbox and providing that, or getting into ADP payroll and showing a screenshot of being able to control that. That's when people started flipping out in meetings and saying, "Oh, okay, I get it." And this sounds crazy to security practitioners because we all know what these things are. That domain admin is not a good thing to give somebody who's not very well trusted.
Right.
But yeah, executives need to see this. Even technical executives sometimes don't know the real, actual ramifications. So
Sure.
what essentially we're talking about is the modern world calls this red teaming. The results of a red team are kind of catastrophic like that. The difference is that, red teams are for the organizations that are not getting good results on pen testing. So you have to throw 3 consultants in 3 months and, no limits on what they can do. So they can show up in a parking lot on a red team and attack you wirelessly, or attack your partner from a supply chain perspective to get code running in your organization. What we found is that people haven't covered the basics, even though they're being sold these advanced engagements. Old school things that, controls we thought were taken care of in the 90s and 2000s still aren't buckled up. So we're still out there kind of showing people, we offer adversary emulation, advanced red teams and all that stuff, but a lot of our clients don't need that, aren't ready for it. They just haven't had a solid, penetration test with a real qualified person running over all the results of the tooling with their human eyeballs and pulling things out. So
Yeah. We'll have some clients that'll say, "Hey, we're trying to build an internal pen testing team, a blue team," and there's not enough quality candidates in the market for these companies really making a solid business case to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a tech focused company, I can see that, but we had a client in the lead generation insurance space, and they wanted to build out a penetration testing team internally, and it just didn't seem practical.
Right.
And it seems like it's starting. I think there was a lot of chatter about that in the last 5-10 years. I think it seems like it's shifting more to outsourcing it to guys like you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've had clients that I've seen 2 iterations of red teams being built. Example of, start with 5 expensive red team members and a red team manager, realize that the company doesn't really know how to use them day to day, like operationally doesn't know how to, there's a lot that goes on in my back office besides the actual doing of the work. I have specialized project managers that know the difference between API and web app testing and know the difference between what they need to start this project versus the other. All the things they'd have to ask the business, unit owner to ensure a proper, successful pen test.
Sure.
That doesn't exist in most organizations. No. They don't have any offensive abilities. They're totally reliant on hiring for it. So good luck. You can get a great red team manager, or you can get someone that shows up and has no idea what to do with the same qualifications on paper, right? So I've seen that same company disband the expensive red team, come to us more that year,
Right.
and then try it again, but this time in like Eastern Europe or some some place where maybe they're more higher tech there and cheaper, and we could do it better. And then I've seen that team dissolve as well. So you see these ebbs and flows.
Sure.
And, not to say that there aren't great, amazing red teams working at some of the well-known organizations you and I know of that put out great work, help the community and stuff. But yeah, kind of not all organizations are in a position to be able to really utilize a team like that.
Sure. What's it like working at depth? If I'm a new pen tester coming in, or I'm one of your project managers, describe kind of day in life.
Yeah, so great question. The first thing I'd say is that we try to minimize the day-to-day BS that goes on in a corporate environment. I know a lot of folks kind of stack their calendars with 30-minute meetings, so they're full and their boss sees it and it looks like they're adding value, and that's the way they prove that they're busy. Well, we're consulting, obviously, so despite the modern corporate world's like insistence on throwing pointless meetings on calendars, I kind of shield everyone from that. We have, besides our kickoff and wrap-up meetings, we have one mandatory meeting a week. It's called Show and Shell. And what we do is talk about all the coolest exploits that we were able to do since the last time we met last week. So occasionally there's nothing to show, but most of the time someone has, multiple people have some kind of attack scenario to go over. Usually maybe just walking through a report or sometimes in a live demo format. So I'll start with, like, we just don't do much besides pen test. The other thing we do to make sure that people are doing what they enjoy is we have a suite of internal tools that makes reporting a little easier. At the end of the day, you still have to write to do this job, but that's not what all of us are passionate about. You know, we're not poets, we're not authors, we're pen testers. That said, at the end of the day, our customers spend a lot of money and all they get is a deliverable, which is the report. And it better clearly outline what we did, how to fix things, and prioritize so that they're not spinning their wheels on the lower severity issues that don't really move the needle. So we have tooling that helps, produce those high quality reports with less manual writing, to keep people doing what they want to do, which is testing apps and networks. So your day in, day out is pretty much all testing, with the exception of, 1 week you may be kicking off for a pen test that's in advance, the month after, or you may be wrapping up something that you delivered a month or two before. And those are quick little, 20, 30-minute meetings that happen occasionally.
So would you say in order to be a successful pen tester, you need to be able to explain with written words the story of the pen test?
Yeah, that's a great, the executive summary is the top section. We write at different levels, right? So it's pretty common for a report to have an exec summary that you could pretty much get an idea of the tail of the tape just by reading a couple paragraphs. We have a tabulature middle format that's for people in charge of keeping track of these things and checking them off. And then the detail section at the bottom with the screenshots and the murder scene and, all the things that would be interesting to someone technical. That shows a culmination of an attack into something significant, So.
Sure. If I'm a young kid, I'm 20 years old, 25 years old, and I'm trying to break into the pen testing world, and I have some hardware experience, and know how to put a computer back together, or I can do some system administration work. How do I break into that world?
Yeah. No, I mean, first off, talk to your local security team if there's anyone that'll talk to you there. Ask them, find out what positions are available at your current company. Go to the local security meetups. It's very inclusive. Ours here locally is called SecKC. Know the guys that run it. Super nice people. I mean, everyone's welcome. You could not even know how to use a computer and walk in there and feel welcome and talk to somebody and find out something. Right?
Sure.
So that's the basic, networking stuff. Who you know, not what you know. That's always important. More specifically, though, there are a set of certifications out that do mean something versus nothing. So we've had, the Certified Ethical Hacker, CEH, CISSP. I had that one. I gave that up. I got tired of the continuing education credits. But these are written tests that don't move the needle at all. It literally doesn't mean anything if you pass it. For me,
yeah,
like
we see the most popular one we see is the CEH.
Yeah.
It means nothing. I mean,
it literally is.
It carries no weight.
Carries no weight. To an offensive pen testing shop, I'm sure there's somewhere it does, and it's certainly better than nothing. I don't want to just completely, crap on it, but. So we have lab-based exams now that are better than the first generations, just written, write an answer in, multiple choice type stuff. These actually require you to actually get in a lab, improve your skills in a realistic world, so to speak. It doesn't mean you're going to be a great pen tester. It doesn't even mean you're going to get hired, but there's a few certifications out there. So offensive security, is the first one that kind of got popular. So the OSCP is kind of a pretty bare minimum cert you could get to maybe get some interviews. E-learning security is kind of the next one that came around that's bigger. They do that style of certification. So the ECPPT V2 is a very OSCP equivalent kind of professional level cert they offer. There's others like other smaller organizations that offer things like the Certified Red Teamer or Red Team Operator. Any of these lab-based things that's not just a piece of paper. Maybe you get your Security Plus and your CEH just to get some confidence, right? Maybe you've got nothing, you're going from zero. So yeah, those can be useful in bridging the gap for these more vaunted certifications. And I don't want to sit here and act like I'm gatekeeping on certifications. More importantly, if someone has experience, a bunch of maybe some really cool research they've just written about personally, or even better, like CVEs they've blogged about that are public, exploit code, Metasploit modules, GitHub tooling that's novel or interesting, can signify to me like, no, this person is passionate about this. They took this idea and took the time to execute it, write a little tool about it on GitHub, or they took the time to research this device they bought, and they came up with a CVE and got that published. So like anything like that really shows what you can do. I'm not worried about you don't have a bachelor's, fine. Can you do the work? Can you exploit machines?
So they need to build a portfolio.
Yeah.
And they can use GitHub, and like they can record maybe doing extracurricular activities like capture flag or bug bounties, and they're able to put that like in a repository into GitHub and show all the work that they've done.
Well, CTFs are a little harder. Like that's not necessarily a certification. A lot of them have their answers. You can just search for walkthroughs and solve a CTF. But it's good to put on the resume that you participated in XY CTF in college or whatever your situation is. It's hard to prove what it meant. That's where the certification comes in. There's also like more online CTFs available than ever, like Hack the Box and Try Hack Me.
Yeah.
And those have rankings in and of themselves, where you can kind of brag publicly about what boxes you've solved, where you're at in the hierarchy of people that use that service and stuff. So that stuff's great, more for learning and improving, what you're doing. So there's, all these resources. None of these existed in 06.
Yeah.
At the same time, since there was no way to prove how good you were, it was a little easier to break in. Unfortunately now, there's no doubt people that are super qualified having a hard time breaking in.
Yep.
While meanwhile, people that aren't qualified at all are really good at passing interviews or something like that and being hired. So it's lumpy still.
Yeah, there's a lot of banter on LinkedIn about the struggle of people trying to break into the pen testing space or cyberspace.
Yeah.
And I think companies are being more stringent on what they're needing, and they want e-learning certification or OSCP, and those things are hard to get, and they require a financial commitment.
Right.
But if you're able to get through those things and have those things, like you're going to be worth it as an employee.
Yeah.
And there's so much fluff out there that, for me, it seems pretty reasonable to ask someone to have a built out GitHub where you can look at how they're writing, the kind of code they're putting out, and they've committed, was it a couple grand to either the e-learning or the OCP certification, and it takes a lot of studying.
Yeah.
And you might not always pass it on the first go.
Right.
But it shows that you're all in.
Yeah. It shows some passion. It shows that you've kind of taken the time to demonstrate your skills. It's not everything. There's no panacea or anything like that, but that's one of the ways. And as an example, probably one of my most talented guys told me the other day, and you'll know who this is. He applied to something like 30 or 50 places. Somewhere it was either 30 or 50. I can't remember the specific number, but a lot. And I think he only got 2 or 3 callbacks. And here, 3 years later, this guy is just amazing. He's a stud, just amazing. Never seen anything like it. So, meanwhile, I see people that are working perfectly, perfectly well in the organization, not in the organization, in the industry, and I'm pretty sure they're just running like automated scans and outputting reports as pen testers. So,
well, then I think his experience is because I think the supply chain of the recruiting is a little broken. You know, if you're applying to a link on someone's career tab, you know, you might have one HR person looking at it, and they have no idea what OCP or any of that stuff
That's
is.
true.
So,
Yeah.
you know, and that's why there's the recruiting industry as well.
Right.
Lastly, what are you excited about at Depth? What's the next kind of year or 2 years have in store? And yeah, what do you guys have going on that you're really excited about?
Oh, we just have, you know, exciting growth prospects. We just closed our largest single
Congrats. I heard about
proposal
that.
yesterday. Yeah. So a lot of application security work coming down the pipe for us, which is good. It's sustenance. And I'll always say, like, if you know, there's a lot of network pen testers that I know don't like doing application pen testing, but if you know how to find an RCE in an app,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably going to be one of the only pivots available in modern external networks to get you, you know, where you want to go. It's pretty much like gone are the days of an exposed network service that you can just exploit. It's all web apps, and it's all being able to kind of dig in and chain stuff together to get your code to exploit, or password spraying. Those are the two pivots we get. So, long story short, I'm excited about our growth potential, growing the team, providing opportunities for the team I currently have. Obviously, we're going to need, you know, layers in between me and the team as we grow. Growing the project management team, which is a big part of what we do, as well as the sales. So, you know, looking good so far. We're really excited.
How many people you have at Depth?
Yeah, depth total.
Yeah.
I don't know the total number. I have 13 testers.
Okay.
I had 14. I'm losing one Friday. So 13. I've got 5 sales members, 2 project managers. So
It's good. It's robust. And if you guys want to get in touch with Jake, reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I can facilitate that so you're not getting spammed by a bunch of people. But if they want to reach out to you as well, they want to go on LinkedIn and find you there. Is that
yeah, or Jake at depthsecurity.com.
Okay.
You can hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to talk to you and let you know what I know, as little as that is.
Love it. Thanks, man.
Thanks.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah, of course.
Cool.